Okay, so we're ready to try our first batch of freeze drying. This is, of course, after the initial batch, which is a freeze dryer full of bread. That's what they tell you to do in the manual to get any smells, potentially from the manufacturing process, out of the freeze dryer. So you do one batch of moistened bread slices, and then you can go ahead and start freeze drying your food. We're going to start with eggs because at the moment our chickens have been producing really well and we have a lot of them. So according to the research I've done, each of these trays should hold approximately 18 eggs. So what I have here is a measuring cup with 18 eggs in it. And we're just going to put our raw scrambled eggs in there and see how they come out. And what I'm doing is just putting the tray mostly into the machine, and then I'm going to dump the eggs onto it and then push it the rest of the way in because I didn't want to try and carry a really full tray out here and make a huge mess. So we'll see if I can avoid making a huge mess. Here's hoping. Oop, there's one yolk I didn't get popped. I guess we'll see how that goes. All right, so there is 18 eggs. As you can see, it does just fit. And they tell you with any food, not just liquids, to keep it below the edge of the tray. So you always want stuff that's cut up into pretty small pieces. That allows it to freeze dry evenly all the way through, because what you're looking to do is remove virtually every bit of moisture out of this, and that's what allows it to store for up to 25 years. So we're going to slowly and carefully push this tray in so that we don't make a mess. And then we'll go ahead and fill our other 3 trays and get the process started. All right, so our trays of eggs are in the freeze dryer. We're going to put our cover for insulation in here. And it is a snug fit. It just kind of like wads up into there. And then you close this and turn it all the way. And you should hear it latch. So it looks like it's latched there. You actually have to turn it all the way till it stops.
You'll also notice the dark line where it seals.
And then we're going to tell it that we want to start. It's not frozen. And now it's prompting us to close our drain valve, which is already closed. So we're going to hit continue. And now it's off doing its first freeze cycle. So what it's doing now is it's freezing the food that we've just put into the freeze dryer, and then it depressurizes the inside of the chamber using the vacuum pump, and then it slowly allows it to come back up to normal pressure. And in that time, the water is all released out of it because water boils at a much higher temperature, a much lower temperature when it's under a vacuum. And so that allows the water to actually come out of the food, and so that'll remove it all, and then we'll have our freeze-dried eggs. Okay, so we just got the notification from the freeze dryer that this batch is done. It beeps at you when it wants you to do something. So it does say our process is complete. I'm going to grab this bucket over here. And it says that we need to open the drain valve. So we selected no defrost, and that means that our process here is done. So let's see how our eggs did. Okay, so it looks like they puffed up a lot in the middle. I'm not totally sure why. I assume it's because they expand when they're very cold and then get warmed up again. But that is what our dehydrated eggs look like. And there's the tray that had the yolk that did not get broken. You can see it's still sitting there in the middle of the tray. So this should come out of the trays very easily, according to everybody that I've talked with about this. And at this point it is completely dry and it's very, very light and it just flakes apart. So what we're going to do actually is put this in our blender and turn it into a powder, and then we'll be able to store this in the Mylar bags. Okay, so we're getting ready to lift the egg out of the tray. And as I said, the advice on the internet said you didn't need to bother to line the trays because it would come right out. That does appear to be true. It's not sticking at all. It feels a lot like styrofoam. It's super light, super dry. And what we're going to do with this batch is we're just going to save this for usage soon, which means in the next year or so. And so we're just going to put it into a regular canning jar with a lid. And what we're going to do for you guys is, after we get this all blended up into a powder, we're going to go ahead and reconstitute some. And we're going to do a taste test on it and show you what it looks like reconstituted and see if it still tastes like an egg should. So obviously I'm going to have to do this in batches because it is really fluffy. Okay, so you can see that reduced the volume quite a bit. We're going to go ahead and get the rest of this blended up, and then we'll bring you back and show you the rehydration and a taste test. All right, so we've finished blending up our egg powder. This is how much we got total. And we've saved this in a separate jar. We're going to take this over to a friend so that they can try it out because they were very curious about freeze drying. And this jar is full. We'll go ahead and vacuum pack that. This we will probably save because I want to do some baking experiments, and obviously, as I said, we're going to do a little fried egg taste test for you guys. So the other experiment we have is, this is the whole yolk that did not get broken when we did the blending for the freeze drying process. So we're going to see if we can rehydrate that just for fun. So I'm going to do a 1/4 cup of egg mixture. The equivalent of 1 egg is about 2 tablespoons of egg powder and 2 tablespoons of water. But we want a little more than 1 egg. So we're going to do a 1/4 cup of powder. And then we're going to take a 1/4 cup of, this is just room temperature water. We're gonna pour it in like that. And give it a little bit of a mix. And then we're just gonna give it a little time to rehydrate, but you can see it's already starting to turn egg consistency again. And for this, we're just going to dump in over the top of the egg yolk. That was probably a tablespoon or so of water. And that is purely experimental. We've not seen anybody else do this. We just wanted to do a little experiment and see how it goes. So you can see this is starting to turn very much an egg consistency. It does need just a little bit more time to rehydrate and to get fully mixed up. So I've gone ahead and tilted the egg a little bit so that it stays in the water. I think probably it's like with meat where you can't really add too much to it because it will only reabsorb what it actually needs to rehydrate, because it's sort of still a whole unit. Obviously with the scrambled eggs, because they are a liquid at this point fully, them you could add too much water to, but the yolk I think is probably just going to rehydrate as a blob. We'll see, I don't know. We're gonna give this about 5 minutes to sit here and hydrate, and then we'll come back and we'll cook this for you. Okay, so our egg has been sitting for a few minutes now, and as you can see, it looks pretty much like a normal egg. So we're gonna go ahead and fry this up and see how it looks and tastes once it's been cooked. We're gonna let our egg yolk there have a little bit longer to rehydrate because it is a really thick item, and then we'll bring you back to show you that as well. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of our butter to our pan like I normally would when I'm scrambling up an egg. So it does look like perhaps I could have let this rehydrate just a touch longer. There's a few little pieces in there that do look like they are still not 100% hydrated. But that's a good lesson for us, and we're gonna try it anyway. You can see it's starting to solidify just like a normal egg would with heat. So I probably could have had my pan a little bit hotter when I started this, but that's all right. All right, so I'm going to try this and Ryan's going to try this. I normally don't eat eggs plain because I don't like them very much, but I'm doing this one for you guys. It has the exact taste and texture you would expect a fried egg to have, and you really wouldn't know it was any different from fresh, in my opinion. So I'll grab the camera from Ryan and we'll let him go ahead and give you his review on it.
Yeah, as Stu mentioned, really the same consistency and all the same flavor, so it's kind of cool.
All right, so we have one more taste tester in the household. And Spritey says that it gets an A+ rating. Okay, so here is our yolk. It's been probably 5 minutes, and it is still really, really hard. This obviously has not reconstituted properly, and I'm guessing that's why people tell you that you need to scramble the eggs before you cook them. Like, it's very, very hard. So my guess is that the membrane on the outside of the yolk makes it very difficult to rehydrate. But that was our yolk experiment. I think if you left it in a long time, maybe like 15 or 20 minutes, you probably could get it to fully rehydrate. We're gonna leave it there just like that for 15 minutes or so, and we'll come back and show you if anything's changed. Okay, so here is our yolk about a half hour later, and I'm gonna go ahead and give it a little poke. It's still really firm, and it's not really rehydrated. So I would say that definitely tells you that if you are freeze drying eggs, you need to make sure that all of the yolks are broken, or at least that you blend up the yolks before you try and use them. I don't think you could just rehydrate an entire egg because the yolk really doesn't rehydrate very well. So it does seem to need to be in the powdered form in order to rehydrate. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.